Recently, India confirmed it would stop buying Russian oil moving forward.
Homelessness is surging in many American cities, and a new report shows radical left-wing activist groups are using the crisis to push anti-American ideology. According to the watchdog behind the report, the Capital Research Center, these groups are less focused on solutions to America's problems and more interested in pushing radical political agendas. Joining us now is Scott Walter, president of the Capital Research Center. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Now, this report paints a pretty alarming picture that many homelessness nonprofits aren't just failing to solve the crisis, they're actually actively pushing anti-American ideologies and are funded with the public's money. So tell us about your findings.
Sure. Let me be clear. I'm not saying every nonprofit helping, claiming to help the homeless is this radical. But the point of our report, which you can find at capitalresearch.org and check out the documentation for yourself, is that there definitely are truly radical groups that don't actually care at all for the homeless. They just want them as props. They want to say America's a horrible country and the proof is these people suffering on the streets. But of course, they're not actually helping the people suffering on the streets.
Yeah, and one thing, and one aspect of the report which I read, and it was excellent, one thing that stuck out to me was that there's this model, right? This housing first, harm reduction model that so many organizations try to do. Now, what does that do? It emphasizes getting the homeless a place to live and trying to help them reduce drug use without addressing the root of the problem and the primary cause, which, as we know, in most cases is addiction and mental illness. So talk about how these social justice groups try to use homelessness as a symptom, as you say, of stuff like oppression and capitalism. It's because they didn't have a home. When we know it goes a lot deeper than that. And so when you start to say, hey, let's just give them a house, let's just take them off the streets, that's going to somehow solve all the problems, and it never does.
No, you're exactly right. Housing first means, hey, don't try to treat addiction, don't try to treat mental illness, just give them government subsidized housing. And, the overwhelming majority of Americans understand, that's not going to fix your fentanyl problem. That's not going to fix your schizophrenia. It's literally crazy to think that. And then, as you said, the other slogan is harm reduction, which is an unbelievable lie. That means things like giving needles to addicts. Now, again, the overwhelming majority of Americans would say, I'm not sure that's going to fix the heroin abuser just to give him clean needles.
Yeah, funding is a major focus of your study here. What was uncovered about how taxpayer funds or philanthropic grants are being diverted into what you call the homelessness industrial complex?
Well, one reason we use that term, and by the way, Christopher Rufo, who's been brilliant on this for years and wrote an introduction to our report, I think he coined that term. It's an industrial complex because it gets billions upon billions, both of tax dollars and also from big philanthropies together. And, it's outrageous because most taxpayers know perfectly well those policies are not going to work. But what they don't know so well is that that's what a lot of their tax dollars are funding.
Right. Are there any safeguards that can be put into place to ensure the money reaches, the people that need it the most rather than being funneled for political activism?
Well, I think one powerful, simple thing is any group getting tax dollars should be forced to show how are you genuinely relieving the suffering of these people? How many of these people are fixed, as it were, 6 months, a year after you've encountered them?
And also, too, how do you push back? What's the next step on this against this homelessness industrial complex, especially in those cities hardest hit by homelessness?
Two simple things, I think. One is got to do what you're doing right now, which is educate the public, which all they know is like, we're helping the homeless. That's what we do. We help the homeless. Well, okay. First of all, it's not likely with harm reduction and housing first policies and people taxpayers need to understand that. And then second, again, people who get money should be able to show that they've improved lives with those money, not just used it to sue the government for more money or to advocate about how horrible America is.
Right, and the proof is right there. You can look at statistics, you can look at your city, you can see if homelessness has, in fact, improved, right? President of the Capital Research Center, Scott Walker, pleasure to talk to you. It was a very fascinating report. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.